while ago, I came across a TikTok from one of the creators I follow. I won't mention their username or whatever, because I don't think it will do anything good. In the video, they were sharing their pessimistic expectations on the upcoming album of Olivia Rodrigo, who seemed pretty sad for a girl so in love. They then more broadly complained about the rise in ex-boyfriend music, such as Beba Doobie's last single, All I Did Was Dream of You, feat. The Marias, or Mitski's I'll Change For You, in her new album, Nothing's About to Happen to Me. Even though I agreed to some of her discourse, some arguments rubbed me the wrong way, especially when they concluded their video by saying that since we were in a post-Brat Summer era, they thought we were over girls making music being sad about boys. Indeed, I've been a sad girl music listener for many years now, and while I can acknowledge the deserved criticism of the genre and its fans, I still believe some of it is a symptom of the current state of the world. So let me share with you this defense and even this ode to sad girl music. Frank, sad girl music isn't truly a genre. Rather, it's a designation that emerged during the 2010s to refer to songs performed by women that discuss things such as melancholy, heartbreak, loneliness, and stress. The first artists falling into the genre go way back to the 90s. Most of the current popular names emerged during the 2010s, such as Marina, especially her Electro Heart album, Mitski, Lana Del Rey, Phoebe Bridgers, Billie Eilish, and even Olivia Rodrigo in a good chunk of her songs. As you can guess by the term, sad girl music is not only composed and written by women, but also targeted towards young girls and women. The genre allows girls to bathe in their emotions and helps them realize that they are not the only one feeling this way. Sad girl music is all about pain and what it does to a girl. It ranges from distressing events, such as heartbreaks, assaults or traumatisms, to a constant lingering state of gloom that sticks to the skin. It explores the emotions that come with them, the thoughts, the physical reactions, all of that from a woman's lens. And with that last point, you might realize something. Why is women's pain a specific music genre? Sad boy music? No, that's perfectly normal. That genre doesn't exist. At least it's not the phenomenon as defined and popular as sad girl music. Moreover, usually songs that would fall under the umbrella of sad boy music are identified this way by girls and women. Men and boys that listen to Radiohead, for example, won't ever refer to their songs as sad boy music. Yet, it's rather fitting. Radiohead's songs tackle painful situations and emotions, all from the point of view of vulnerable boys and men. On the other hand, many artists that would be considered as making sad boy music, like Conan Gray or Somber, often have huge feminine fan bases. It's as if vulnerability and acknowledging pain were only a woman's thing. More than that, a girl's suffering is a specific kind of pain. When a man suffers and writes a song about it, both male and female audiences can relate. After all, a breakup is a breakup, grieving is grieving, and everyone can go through these events. Even when it's focused solely on a male experience, women can still connect with the song because they easily understand how painful the situation can be and feel empathic. But as soon as it's a woman that talks about her pain, suddenly a barrier appears. It's not just a heartache. It's a girl's heartache. It's not just grief, it's a girl's way of grieving. She's not just sad, she's a sad girl. Hence the term sad girl music. A man's experience is a universal one. A woman's experience is just that. There are still sadnesses that are peculiar to the female experience. But it's weird that someone that's not a woman will need to directly experience the themes of the songs in their lives, whilst the contrary is not needed at all. It's as if women were a very secluded demographic from the rest of humanity, and the brains were wired in such a way that's absolutely impossible to understand from the outside. Yes, it's misogyny. But even if the separation began as a way to isolate and diminish girls' sad songs, young women quickly decided to reclaim the term and make it a whole cultural thing. The sad girl isn't a derisory specimen anymore. She's a character, a persona. The singers that make sad girl music, of course, participate even more in building the idea of the sad girl than Lana Del Rey, for example, has a very recognizable aesthetic that is often used by her fanbase and sad girl music listeners. The thing is, when you turn sadness into an aesthetic, you end up romanticizing it, and romanticizing pain is rarely a healthy thing. One would argue sad music can only romanticize it. After all, making music requires a creative process, which necessarily leads to a cohesive aesthetic set of lyrics and melody. In the case of sad music, the lyrics have to translate the distress of the singer in a way that's pleasant to listen to, poetic, and, let's say it, beautiful. The instruments and melody that accompany the text also have to enhance its meaning and to create a sorrowful atmosphere mirroring the mood of the singer. Suffering becomes a tale worth sharing, a story that, beyond sadness, sparks admiration within the listener. This aspect becomes even more prominent in sad girl music. It not only uses the codes of sadness in art, it also heavily takes inspiration from the codes of femininity and girlhood. Take Lana Del Rey's dark coquette aesthetic, Mitski's Puberty 2 album, or Olivia Rodrigo's recent Baby Doll dress, even though it wasn't in a sad girl music video. Sad girl music merges together visual and musical elements from both melancholy and femininity, creating a world where bows, lace, lip gloss and angelic singing meet graveyards, pills, tears and gloomy guitars. As opposed as these two aesthetics may seem, they actually very often collide together as girls arrive to the gates of adolescence. A woman's first experience of violence is often at the beginning of her puberty, heartbreaks, hypersexualization, from the base discrimination up to SA. It is no surprise that the whole music genre birthed from girls' suffering. Sad girl music singers turn their personal experiences of systemic issues into adolescence anthems for every female listener to relate to. In a way, this allows for girls to create a community that even exceeds the social group of women, with songs, visuals, and references in common. You can tell someone is a sad girl music enjoyer by the songs she uses in her stories, the posters she has in her room, or the merch she's wearing. The Stinger's social comparison theory argues that when an individual is unsure about their emotional state, if they should feel this way or not, or even when they don't know what they're feeling, they tend to compare themselves to others in order to adjust that feeling to the socially correct one. In the case of a young girl freshly stepping into puberty and suddenly exposed to an amount of violence no one had prepared her for, she will obviously look around her at her peers to know if the sadness she's experiencing is normal. So that's the tendency for young folks to look up at older figures as mentors, and you have the perfect recipe to win young girls to the sad girl music community. They have older figures singing about how it's normal to suffer during this time of life, and girls their age relating to the songs and sharing their own experiences. Finally, the young girl finds a place where she belongs and knows her emotions are normal. However, when you find a community of people that accept you and share the same experiences as you, a safe space, you don't want to leave this group. But since this group is mainly built on suffering and sadness, in order to remain a part of it, you need to remain in pain. Alison Villa has an excellent video entitled "The Desire to be Sad, Tragically Beautiful Art and Romanticizing Mental Illness" on why we tend to consume and enjoy sad art. I only used a part of her analysis, so I highly recommend you watch her video to have a broader view of the phenomenon. In her essay, she mentions the self-verification theory, which argues that individuals tend to wish to maintain self-concepts, aka the knowledge they think they have about themselves, and keep a stable personal state. It joins the concept of homeostasis, the way humans always want to remain in a neutral emotional state, and search strategies in order to quickly die down any emotion that might be too strong. For a person that's rather happy in life, that balance is pretty much in the middle between happiness and sadness, an almost perfect neutrality, with of course small fluctuations. However, when a person has a rather rough day-to-day life, let's hypothetically say a young girl that's slowly discovering the cruelty of girlhood, this neutral state may actually be closer to sadness than happiness. In this case, if the girl wants to remain in a stable state, she needs to keep herself in a rather gloomy mood all the time. And having Mitski's I Bet I'm Losing Dogs in her ears will be of great help in this situation. In short, both to nurture their social identity as a sad girl music enjoyer and keep their emotional state stable, young girls will do everything in order to remain sad. With this full part I just finished, who thinks that girl music is absolutely indefensible, that it does nothing but create a desire to be and remain sad among young vulnerable girls in search of identity. But I can't stop here. Even if sadness is an unpleasant emotion, to say the least, and that constant exposition to it can be hurtful, it is still a part of our emotional palette, and in the last years has become more and more cringe and shamed to display emotional affect and vulnerability, especially among girls and women. Gen Z is known as a nihilistic generation. Climate change, the rise in prices, unemployment, all of this has convinced us that humanity is doomed and that we will soon disappear in harsh suffering. Power to that, we have a sort of heteropessimistic wave washing over young women, which argues that men's patriarchal behavior makes it impossible to have healthy heterosexual romantic relationships. Mentioning back the initial TikTok I came across, women are not tired of ex-boyfriend songs and melancholic music. The current trending songs picture women as girl bosses who make their own money and don't need men because they are entirely self-sufficient. This may first appear as a progressist term. It actually is only a deeper dive in the hyper-individualistic way of life pushed by late-stage capitalism. The idea that we shouldn't depend on anyone, that we don't owe anyone anything, is only a way to isolate us more and to push us to consume instead of spending time with others when we feel down. In this climate, sad girl music becomes irrelevant. Sadness over heartbreak becomes laughable because it must be expected for heterosexual relationships to finish in suffering, and that a girl willingly engaging in those cannot act surprised when the outcome is tragic. If those mention a breakup, it must be in a nonchalant manner. She must tell everyone it doesn't affect her at all, or even that she's really tried to gotten that guy out of her life. Even in a more general way, there is so much sadness everywhere in the world that singing about it ends up almost childish. We cannot keep feeling sad about the events in our lives because things will never get better. Existence will only get more painful as the years go by, so we need to become entirely desensitized about it. I have to admit, the shift in mindset is scaring me. Emotions are one of the core things that make us human. Therefore, trying to get rid of them in order to each live our lives entirely separately, giving up vulnerability for the constant satisfaction of consumerism, is basically abandoning ourselves to capitalism. And that's why I want to defend sad girl music. Maybe trying to remain in pain isn't healthy, but let's be real, we are all currently in pain. And trying to bury that feeling under empowering songs isn't gonna change that. Yes, sad girl music also has a consumerism problem, notably with merch or elements that coincide with the aesthetics of it, but its main purpose remains to process an emotional state that is particularly violent for the individual. And I agree that we should disinter heterosexual relationships from a woman's life, as they are not needed for a girl or woman to be a complete individual, and that many other relationships, notably friendships, can bring as much if not more love and happiness than romantic relationships. That doesn't mean that we should approach every romantic interaction with nihilism, expecting it all to crumble down and avoiding to be vulnerable to make sure we won't feel anything once it inevitably comes to an end. Of course, you're gonna be sad if you break up. It's totally normal. Of course, you're in pain each time you watch the news and realize that you're still dying, the minorities are suffering, that billionaires are only getting richer and richer. Shrugging in front of this and mumbling nothing's ever gonna change won't bring you the peace and happiness you think it will. If anything, it's only gonna turn you into an avoidant person that passively watches their situation worsen, that's never gonna fight for things to change. In the article, The Joy of Sad Girl Music, written by Laia Garcia Hurtado, the author quotes singer Shirley Manson from the band Garbage. When society dubs you a so-called sad girl, it's a euphemism for anyone who is in disagreement with the status quo. I feel that if you are hotwired that way, you will remain that way. It's a means by which we see the world. The sad girl isn't sad just for the sake of it. She's sad because the world gives her a reason to be sad. It's a thought over sadness after an analysis of the person's current state of life. The sad girl is sad because she notices that something is wrong. The article quotes once more Manson. Therefore, I see anger as a source of great power as long as it's used responsibly. Disagreement is necessary and healthy. The expression of pain is necessary. And so that is why I will always be a sad girl. Because we often forget to mention that the sad girl isn't only sad, she is also disgusted, shocked, enraged, and many more emotions that mix and nuance each other in different ways depending on the song. Sadness rarely comes alone, and when other emotions show up, you can also be a part of them. How can you fight against an unfair world if you're not mad at your current situation? How can you find strength in your anger if you don't let room for your sadness to breathe and process it? We need time and rest to gather the energy to fight, and we cannot rest until we have digested the various emotions that boil in our gut. So yes, I'm worried when I see Olivia Rodrigo switch from sour and guts towards referencing bitterness and anger, the strong purple color scheme that reminds me of feminism and witches, to you seem pretty sad for a girl so in love with the pastel palette, an accepting facial expression and a sort of soft ambient passivity. But I also understand that sometimes we just need a soft space to cry and recharge our batteries. Sometimes being sad is a revolutionary act. Accepting to have a dialogue with the pain because you understand that it's not here for nothing, that it reflects something in your life, and that's why I will always be a sad girl too. Thank you for listening to my video, I hope you enjoyed. If that's the case, don't forget to drop a like, a comment or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.